Hi, just like I told you guys, I was going to record our second week lecture so that I could post it to YouTube for you guys since we can't meet in person in the theater building due to the current production that's happening. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I covered is that we do have our schedule at the end of the slideshow. So you have a journal entry every week and a discussion every week from the first week through the fifth week. You also have a quiz on D2L during week 3, and then you're going to start your rehearsals in that week as well. So these first 2 weeks on Tuesday night's class, it was heavy lecture. This is also going to be heavy lecture, but then the last 3 weeks are heavy project based so that you guys have time in class to work on your final project with your classmates and with me. It's good time that you guys are all free together, and it's a good time for me to observe you and direct you if you should need it. And that's where the big chunk of your grade comes from. Remember, I told you that your final performance could be the quote unquote worst time that you've ever performed it, but I've seen the entire process and you're graded more on the process than how you performed that one time, because that's the goal of this class, is to work on the project together with a team, to collaborate, to learn from each other, and to encourage each other while applying the things that we learn in class, and to cultivate different artistic application in your classroom with your curriculum. So don't forget that that is the schedule at the end of the slideshow there. Cool. So then I also wanted to make sure that you guys knew how to get to the chapters for your readings. So if you go to my Leo, it's loading for me. If you go to my Leo, and then you go to our course, it's taking a second. And then you go to Integrated Arts. Then you can go to the Content tab. And then to the Theater section. And then if you scroll through, you can see, no, where is it? Syllabus. Here we go. Theater chapter readings, chapter 8, part 1 and part 2, and chapter 9's part 1 and part 2. Those are the chapters that heavily cover theater and drama application in the classroom. And those are also the chapters that I pulled the questions from your quiz from. So yeah. Also, one of the things I wanted to make sure that I thought was good to cover that was brought up in our last rotation is what happens after this class and after you guys graduate. One of the things I told you guys is that we're going to miss out on a little bit of discussion with this recording because it's more lecture, less discussion in class. And you guys do get different insights from each other. And sometimes you bring up topics that I don't think about. And one of the things that was brought up last rotation that I thought was really good to address was when you're looking for jobs. So when you're looking for jobs and you're applying for jobs, you know, you're going to get interviews at these schools when they're interested in you, which is great. When you go to these interviews, keep your eyes out for any red flags. You want to make sure that there's a welcoming environment from the people that are interviewing you, which are probably going to be anyone from your admin, principals, vice principals, assistant principals, superintendents, assistant superintendents. All of those people are really good gauges to get a feel for how you're going to be welcomed in the school and how you're going to be taken care of. If you don't feel like you're listened to in that interview, you don't feel like you have been welcomed into that interview, they're putting their best foot forward in that interview. So that's probably some of the best interactions you're going to get. And if you're not getting the best of them in that interview, you're probably not going to get the best of them working there. So if they're not listening to you and if they're not welcoming you, then that's a red flag, and that's potentially a school that you need to consider not accepting a position from and looking for a place that's more encouraging and inviting for you. Also ask questions. People are always worried about having the right answers to questions in job interviews, which is very important. You know, Google questions that people could ask you in interviews. Ask for mock interviews from your friends and family members and teachers. If any of you ever want me to do a mock interview for you, I'm very open to doing that for you. But come with your own questions. Don't just worry about how you're going to answer their questions. Think about questions that you can ask them that are important. Ask to talk to students if you can, or observe a class to see what it's like at that school. You want to know what kind of culture they've cultivated, how the students act, how the students respect their teachers. One of the things that my husband and I had a conversation about that I think is very important is that good teachers take care of their students and good administration take care of their teachers. And so you want to know how well those teachers are taken care of at that school, because that's one of the main reasons that teachers leave the profession is when they're not taken care of. So make sure that you ask questions. You ask if you can talk to students or observe a class. And if they don't let you do those things, you can always be that sneaky stalker on Facebook and on Google and do research on those schools. You should always research your school anyway. You also want to look into any mission statements or any ideas that the school pushes forward. What is their mission? What is their goal for students? What are their plans, their future goals? You always want to have goals that you're constantly looking to achieve. You never want to be complacent, and you never want to just be satisfied with where you are. You want to be a better educator every year, and your administration should want to be a better school district for their students every year, because education changes, so we have to change with that. Cool. So yes, jumping into theater and why it matters. Theater is an art, and art is a way to express ideas, emotions, thoughts, or feelings. Like reading and writing, theater communicates meaning, but it takes it a step further. It's a chance to use physical and emotional expression to further the text and understanding. So this is one of those moments where I would open it up to you guys, and we would have discussions over what we thought and what we felt and what we thought those things meant, but we can't do that over recording. So I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys. So I know most of you haven't done theater or are completely uninterested in theater, and that's okay. But I believe that everyone is artistic. It doesn't matter what job that you have, creative thinking and expression will always make you better at your job, always. And it will always make your students better students. Because they respond to that. They respond to creativity and engagement. And that's what that kind of means to me. It takes it a step further. It's proven that you learn more through the act of doing. When you have to learn something and then teach it to another person or explain yourself to another person, you remember it better, you retain it longer. So art and theater are present throughout history in practical application, and it has been used as expression, entertainment, and as political statements. And that has transitioned into the classroom. Theater and arts in the classroom provide students the opportunity to create and to discover meaning with artistic practice in other curricular areas. So like I said, it offers collaboration, creative thinking. It's very, very applicable and overlaps in curriculum through ideas, themes, plots. Some examples of that are on page 364 and 74. I'm going to flip there real quick. So like in English language arts, there's a lot of literary focus in English, and it is very literature focused and script focused in theater. So there's a lot of overlap in ideas, plots, language, things like that. And it's a really good opportunity to connect that overlap. So, and a lot of that, like reading the text and then talking about it in a creative way, asking what descriptive words are used and asking them to interact with that, act it out. Like we read a story, and okay, so if we were going to tell the story practically, not just retell it with our words, how could we retell the story in action? And we can do those things and make connections and themes. So we can pause the story, freeze. Okay, what connection are we making here? Things like that. It's really, really fun and engaging for the students. Theater also provides physical and creative expression in the classroom that typically isn't offered in classic core curriculum instruction. It's very lecture-based in English, math, science, and history. And that's okay. There is a time and a place for lecture, just like in the first 2 weeks that I do with you guys. It's very lecture heavy because there is information that you do have to connect and explain to students, but then that's where the action comes in, because there's a learning aspect and then there's a doing and an integration that happens with your information with that practical application. That's very, very impactful for students, and it helps them retain it more. It's all about involvement, just like I said at the bottom. Theater and art has so much potential, and it doesn't fit into a one-size-fits-all box. You don't have to teach theater or do plays in your classroom to use theatrical and dramatic application. It's about involvement and making things fun and interesting and exciting. None of you probably enjoy doing theater or acting, but I'm sure you enjoy having a good time, and that your job will be leaps and bounds more exciting if you have fun with your students. And so the goal of this course is to help you discover different ways to have fun in your curriculum and engage your students. So drama invites us to suspend disbelief and pretend in the role, and to vicariously experience and consider what if. So drama, taking a step out of our own circumstances and real life and stepping into a hypothetical situation or someone else's circumstances, allows us to pretend and to suspend disbelief. We know it's not real, so it's a more comfortable, approachable setting. Theater is an educational opportunity and an emotional opportunity to discover, learn, and explore situations and topics in a creative, fun, and safe environment. Theater helps students inside and outside of the classroom. So you have those hard conversations that are a little bit maybe uncomfortable or just a little bit daunting. Maybe it's more fun to pretend to be a historical figure than it is just to talk about them. Things like that. It makes it a little bit more approachable and a little bit more engaging for your students. So there's something beautiful through the doing. That means we can explain it all day long, but until we apply what we learn through engagement, it's all theoretical. And young students don't normally respond to theory and hypothetical. They want to respond to what is tangible. And like I said, through the act of doing, there's something that's in that physical memory. And when your whole body is involved, your whole mind's engaged. You can't just sit down passively in your seat and turn your brain off. When you're made to get up and do things and engage physically and mentally, you retain things, you have fun, you engage. And there's something beautiful about a group dynamic that's created through that opportunity. Then also, there's also been a more supportive drive for arts in schools due to the drop in creativity that was brought to light in the 1990s. Many corporate businesses have actually made it a point to hire people with artistic degrees to build on their marketing, promotions, and engagement of businesses. I know many students that I personally have went to school with that are now working and that I've heard about that got theater degrees, and now they're working in marketing for big corporations like phone companies and businesses, because they have creative, beautiful design background in theater that they can apply to real world marketing and promotions. And so there's things that are so beautiful about theater through the process and the applications of theater that provides creativity. And also like here recently, I told you guys that the show that we're currently doing, they moved it into a different space last minute. So they have been rehearsing in one stage for 6 to 8 weeks. And now the week before they open, they're put in a completely new space. They're changing blocking. They're changing design application. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's a lot to do on short notice, but those conditions forces you to learn how to be adaptable and how to work together and collaborate. And you can take similar situations in the real world or in your classroom and teach your students how to be adaptable and to not crumble under pressure and to meet expectations. And there's something so good about theater that can make you a better communicator, that can make you a better person, because you're given the opportunity to work well under stress, or to have the freedom to fail under stress and learn from it. And that's what educational settings are for. We go into these situations that we either succeed in, or maybe we don't fully succeed in, and we have the freedom to fail and to learn from it. And if you let your students know that this is a space to succeed and fail in, that's okay. You learn from failure more than you learn from success half the time, because you've went through the journey. So exploring theater through drama, through classroom drama allows students to understand subject matter and focus on expression, understanding, and growth rather than just the product or the production. It's process oriented. Just like your final project, I'm grading you on the process, not the product. It's all about it's the learning, it's the safe space to have the freedom to learn and to explore different avenues. And approaching creativity requires imaginative thinking always. There are typically many ways to get to the same destination, and those journeys work well for different people. And so we have to be imaginative and creative to see those different pathways that work best for our students. I also think that purposefulness is very important. What outcome are you trying to reach? Every assignment that you have should be purposeful and have intention for your students. So you need to know what outcome are you reaching. So I'm creating an assignment for my students. What are they supposed to get out of this assignment? Why am I assigning it? And if I don't know the answer to that, I'm not doing my job appropriately. I need to know why I'm giving them this assignment so that I see the value in it and I can explain the value of it to them. You also want to, approaching creativity requires having original results, at least for the individuals experiencing it. So when your students are making new connections and discovering new things in your classroom, regardless of the subject, they need to have that ownership over it. Like it's this amazing discovery that has never been made before. They're like, oh, Mr. or Miss So-and-so, is this what you mean? I connected X, Y, and Z. That's so awesome. And you celebrate that with them. Oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what you were looking for. It's new and it's original for them, even though you've had students discover that connection 5, 10, 15, 20 times in your teaching career, that they need to have that excitement and celebration of their connections made in the curriculum. And again, purposefulness and value work hand in hand. What value do these assignments have, and what value does this project or this exercise have? Is it useful in life? Is it just enjoyment? And what application does it have? So where does it help them past your classroom? Purposefulness and intention and value is so important. So on page 304, there's a classroom application idea that I think is so awesome and very beneficial. I'm going to flip to it, but basically it's in this class where they're researching coral reefs and coral in the ocean. So it's in social studies. Students have researched their specific topic, which is coral, and then the teacher passes around that item that they've been researching, and they want them to reflect on what they've been researching by saying a phrase that the item would say. So they're researching coral, and they've all found these articles based on coral that they've done their own research on. So they all have their own article, they've read it, they've written different things about it, and now to see how well they understand the article that they've researched, the teacher has that piece of coral, which is fun. It's the item that they have been researching. It's a physical manifestation of their work, and they pass it around the circle. And the teacher tells them, I want you to say what you think this piece of coral would say based on the information you have researched. So some of the things that the students say is, my exterior hard and I'm dead. And then he passes it on. My exterior is hard and I'm dead. And then he passes it to another student. And the other one says, they're killing us by polluting our home. And then they pass it to the next student. And then a smart girl tentatively takes the coral and she whispers, pass, because she doesn't want to do it. And so they pass it to the next student, and it takes about 5 minutes to get around the circle, is what it says in the book. And then another student has a different perspective from their article, and it says, I could make a lot of money if I could just find a way to get around the authorities, which they've done research on the laws protecting coral, which is very fun. And then there's another student that says, without the coral reef, our country will not survive. When we kill it, we kill ourselves, which is very insightful and it's an awesome connection. Her voice, it says, was soft and filled with passion on this topic. And so then the teacher asks the students, after everyone has had their opportunity to share if they would like, and says, what did we notice? Hands start to go up. A boy said, her voice was really sad. So then the teacher asks, what made her so sad? She spoke soft and slow, the boy said. She seemed very sincere, another girl commented. And so the teacher said, well, what makes you think that? Well, her eyes were on fire and she leaned in and she used her hands like she had a lot of passion that she was trying to get out. Cool. So then they draw out those elements on a dramatic chart, noticing that they were noticing details that are actors' tools, which are performance. So not only were they understanding the information and the content for the subject, which is the choral, but they're also learning how to read each other's social cues, which is very important and really cool. So the teacher took the subject and the content and connected it to life because they were able to realize social cues and understand each other better. We're in a very, very technical world and a very modern world where I think we forget how to connect with people and forget how to understand and read other people's social cues. And so being able to connect that in your classroom a lot of times is very important. Not only does it help your students understand each other's personality and emotions, but it helps them understand their own as well. So on page 307, it has, I think, 13 different reasons to integrate drama, which is a long list right here, but integrating drama increases motivation, concentration, and focus. It comes from that joy, that excitement of doing, of having the opportunity to be present. And it stretches perspective through pretending. So it allows you to step into the shoes of another person or another situation and understand their perspective. It helps you not be so one-minded and one-sided based on your own journeys and your own backgrounds, which is really important for students to understand and people in general. It also enhances comprehension and writing because you're making those connections. You're having opportunities to articulate things through discussion and through action and exercises, and that does help your writing. Developing empathy, going back to the understanding human connection and social cues and your own emotions. It makes you a more empathetic and understanding person, which makes you stronger in all of your subject matters and in life. And that is another way that it helps shape social skills because, again, you're understanding how humans work. You're understanding how to read body mannerisms and social mannerisms and people's voices and facial expressions. It's a very, very awesome thing for students to be able to learn. And then the rest of the list as well. But remember, drama is fundamental. It is fundamental. It's supposed to be fun. So how can you create a classroom that is full of content and learning, but also an enjoyable place, not only for your students to be, but for you to be as well? So then talking about the history of theater integration, it starts on page 313, but it's talking about performance focused and process focused, the differences being Winifred Ward and Brian Way. So Winifred Ward started a program using movement, pantomime, dialogue, and characterization activities in Illinois, and others saw potential. She wrote The Mother of Creative Drama. So she really focused on the performance aspect of it using pantomime, movement, dialogue. So it was very physical based exercises for students. And then Brian Way brought a more process focused approach. He wanted to focus on the whole child of the student by focusing on their personal experience as a path to discovery. So he snuck in the drama. It wasn't very prominent that they were doing drama exercises. He snuck it in there by asking them about their own journeys, their own histories, and then snuck in the fun and dramatic application with that. So sneaking in drama into the classroom, even just for 5 minutes, is what he said. So his way discourages teacher demonstration, and it has the skills that are unnecessary. It discouraged teacher demonstration and pushes forward the skills. It says that skills are unnecessary for drama participation, meaning that you don't have to be the most talented actor to participate in these fun, dramatic activities. Just like in this class, I know none of you are theater majors or acting majors, but we're doing the process of theater. That is fun to learn the application and to build our communication and our collaboration as educators. Then we have the problem solving approach by Dorothy Heathcote. That was developed in England. She kind of blended the processes of performance by having students solve problems related to life experiences. So the teacher coaches them to reflect and analyze and test out conclusions in a safe and imagined circumstance with the freedom to mess up and learn from it. Like I said before, they're able to pretend in these situations and come out with different possibilities and conclusions of other life circumstances that aren't their own or their own, and have a safe place to experience different avenues to see where the destination takes them. Then you have Real World Reflection by Cecily O'Neill. She extended Heathcote's process to America. She didn't want students to escape the real world, but to reflect and learn from it, to mirror and magnify, to search and grow. So taking those real life experiences and circumstances through history and everything and applying it in the classroom. We're not going to pretend it hasn't happened and existed. We're going to, this is science. This is what happens. How can we explore it? This is whatever historical aspect that you're researching. You want to mirror and magnify and grow. Viola Spulin developed Seeing and Doing and has written many books for theater educators and educators in general. She has work that develop exercises for students and actors to dramatically engage students in core curriculum. So a lot of her writing has specific exercises, just like you can find in the chapters, but she strives for students to lose all inhibitions and to learn intuitively. In my experience through directing and teaching young students through camps, a lot of times they're afraid to try things on their own. A lot of times in rehearsals, they'll raise their hand and they'll say, Miss Fennell, can I try to do this? Sure. If you have the instinct to do something that isn't going to put you or your, scene partners in jeopardy or in a unsafe situation, try it. I can always tell you if it doesn't work out. If you have an instinct, try it, because it teaches that ownership and that individuality and that creativity. You don't want them to feel like they don't have the freedom to try something as long as it's in a controlled, safe environment. So you want to lose all inhibition and learn intuitively, because the minute that they are scared to try things out in the classroom or to discover or learn creatively, they're stunting themselves. And that's not something that you want to establish in your classroom. And they're always going to second guess themselves later in life. So then we have Geraldine Six, who placed drama and art and language arts where it is found in most curriculum today. Her main focus is to develop a creative and expressive skills through becoming the audience member, the player, and the playmaker. So problem solving is different by getting different roles and getting perspective. So she wants everyone to learn from the perspective of the audience member, the player, and the playmaker. So forcing the students to look from different perspective and different roles based on the curriculum that they're doing. And you can do that in a lot of language arts classes, English. We're going to look from the perspective of this person in the story, of this person in the story. Now let's look from the perspective of the author that created the whole story. How does it connect? How does it overlap? What's different? Things like that. And then defining classroom drama is on page 314. Drama integration focuses on the process, like I said before, the use of drama concepts and skills to cause students to restructure content information. Drama application transforms through application and transmits knowledge and information. So drama and theater application elements help cultivate creative thinking and express meaning. It's all about involvement, remember. Opportunities create knowledge and retention using body, mind, and voice. The use of drama doesn't always result in theater, like I said before. Theater is just focused on spectacle and audience, whereas drama integration in the classroom engages creative inquiry and expression. So basically talking about the importance of it again, but this is just an example of it from the textbook. We have talked about how theater is important in the classroom, or drama. The process of it and the creativity is important because of the engagement that it provides. So one of my favorite slides talks about independence and self-discipline in the classroom, and that's from page 333. It's really awesome. The book talks about discipline and breaks it down to the word disciple. So disciples follow leaders by choice, obviously, but creativity and drama can be a bridge to build this relationship between the teacher and the student. You are the leader in the classroom, and you want your students to be followers, to listen to you, to respect you, the word disciple frames that very well. But you can't do that if they don't enjoy being around you. They don't respect you. That if you don't respect them and create a fun environment that they feel encouraged and safe to be in. And so having a creative environment and having dramatic application in your classroom to engage them on so many different levels is so important to building that bridge, to have that awesome professional relationship between the teacher and the student, where they want to be in your classroom. They remember the most from your classroom because you've made it a point to make that a fun and encouraging educational environment. Because teaching is a chosen mission field to invest into young minds. And to succeed, we have to build positive relationships to cultivate lasting impact and results. I know from personal experience, I have teachers that I love and remember fondly, and I have teachers that I could have cared less to be in their classroom, and I do not want to have to ever experience a class with them again. Because again, teaching is not a money-making field. Teaching, you have to be called to teaching, and you have to do it for the right reasons. Nobody does it for the money. We do it for the students because we love the students and we want to invest into their lives. So what you teach is who you are. It's beyond the curriculum. So why are you in that classroom? Why do you want to be there that day, that week, that semester, that year? So what can you do even in a small way to improve the lives of your students? When your students know that you care about them and you care about their success, they want to be there. In my experience, anyone that is under you, a student, a worker, anyone that is that you're in charge of in a situation wants to work harder for you if they like you and they respect you. You never want to be the teacher that students are just putting up with. And in the end, I know it hurts them. It doesn't hurt you, but it potentially can. If you're known as the teacher that none of the kids like, that doesn't invest in the students or doesn't invest in the school, then potentially, the school will let you go eventually, and you don't want to lose your job. That would be terrible. But I don't think any of you are in it for the wrong reasons so far. I've seen all of you care about your own education and the education of your future students. But who you teach is who you are. And so you're a teacher in all aspects of life. You care about your students and their successes, and you want to pick them up when they're, falling down, and you hold them accountable when they're messing up. That's the importance of a good teacher. Is you're their biggest cheerleader, and you also know how to be that authoritative guidance when you need to be, because you don't want to be walked all over. You walk the fine line between encourager and the leader in that classroom. So using exercises with drama integration that involves students allows teachers allows students to follow the teacher's lead and to build confidence, independence, and self-discipline. It's a platform for learning communication tools and inner and outer understanding. So you're learning more about others, and you're learning more about yourself, and you're creating relationships that affect you even into adulthood. So be the teacher that leaves a positive impact. Independence grows as students gain confidence with controlling their minds, concentration and creative thinking, and with their bodies and their voices. And that is directly from the text. So there are more exercises that you might find useful on pages 322 and forward. There's so many ideas to explore. I won't go over all of them, but I will kind of flip through and hit some of the high points that are kind of fun. Let's see. Radio commercials were really fun. So I'll flip to that one, 346. So, like the radio commercials. So it says Amanda's fifth graders are sitting at tables of 4, and on a wall there's a timeline of historical events. And so today the focus is living conditions during World War II. So she begins with a review. So how did Americans do their part? She asks. In response, students list contributions, including scrap drives, victory gardens, and women going through factories. So their challenge for the week is to create a little radio commercial or a video commercial. So you're wanting students to be creative and engage their creativity by writing a little short radio or commercial script that highlights what's happening during that time period. So remember, she said that they're doing scrap drives, victory gardens, and women go to work in factories. And so each group can take some of those topics and make little fun exercises and radio commercials for that. And so you give them a week to work on that maybe and to rehearse it and maybe present it to the class. And then one of the things that takes it a step further that I think would be fun, that's not necessarily in the book, is you could pull up commercials from back then or radio commercials and let the students listen to or watch those and see what the similarities are. That would be fun for them as well. There's also energizers and warm-ups as well. That is really cool and fun to as like a bell ringer to establish the ending of a classroom to transition if you have students that are more on a junior high level. Then you have you can also, if you have students all day long, if you're on the more elementary track, having energizers and warm-ups are a good way to take a break. We've been working in one subject for a really long time. Let's give our students a break and do a really fun energy activity to help them get some of the energy out and to transition into the next subject. Another thing is movable poetry. That's really fun if you're working in a poetry section or English. You could take a poem that all the students are working on or poems that they have to write themselves and create movable poetry. So maybe we have to tell the poem with our bodies or with our voice. So if the poem is about, or if we're writing poems about stuff we're learning in science, like flowers growing, like the flowers grow up to the sky, and when the rain falls, it looks like it cries. So it's poetry, it rhymes. And so maybe we start by sitting down in our chair, and then we slowly stand up and reach to the sky like a flower, and we say the flower grows up to the sky, and so we're standing up and reaching our hands, and then we say the rain, it falls as if it cries, and so then our fingers trickle down like rainfall, and then you do that progressively through the rest of the poem. You could also do that with your voice, and so maybe we say the flower grows up to the sky, so it's talking about growing. So what direction do flowers grow? Up. So we need to make our voices sound as if it's going up. So the flower grows up to the sky. So it's louder, and you say it like it's floating. And then the rain, it falls as if it cries. And so maybe we make our voice sound like it's crying, like the rain, it falls as if it cries. So altogether it would sound like the flower grows up to the sky, and the rain, it falls as if it cries. It's very fun. It's very goofy. They have fun, and they're learning about how flowers grow and about poetry and rhyming, things like that. And there's also so many more examples that you can look at as well. Again, remember, take what you want and what you like and leave what you don't. Then the book also covers pantomime on page 351. So pantomime is acting without words. It's all about that nonverbal communication, and it's so important in performance and in life because we do it all day. Kind of like, with young children, they naturally use pantomime when they're growing, and their communication is infants. Waving, like my son, he's currently learning, how to wave. Like when I smile, he smiles, he mimics that. It's that pantomime. Sorry, I had an alarm go off on my phone. But it's that physical imagination and that exploration. It's taking into consideration body shape, movement, and facial expressions. Pantomime is physically acting out something that's not there, or mimicking things that people are doing. So remember that smiling, that laughing, waving. You can also use pantomime in your classrooms. So if we're learning about history and the Statue of Liberty, maybe we say, how would the Statue of Liberty stand? And then we all stand like the Statue of Liberty. And then we go around the classroom and ask everybody facts about what we've learned about the Statue of Liberty. I don't know, things like that. And again, processes with plant, like I said, plants growing, you can use poetry, you can use pantomime with that as well. You could create a tableau, which is a physical pose of a person or people together that creates a scene. So if we're learning about signing the Declaration of Independence, let's all, like in groups of however many, pose as if we're signing the Declaration of Independence. What would that look like? And then we freeze. And so then, okay, what are some facts about the Declaration of Independence? So you would do different tableaus and poses based on different things you're studying. And when they freeze, you ask someone a quiz question. What's a fact about the Statue of Liberty? Different things like that. You can also do physical energizers, like creating a train around the room while you lead. So you're the conductor / instructor. So choo choo, everybody lines up and chug-a-luggas around the classroom, chugga chugga choo choo. And then as the conductor says, all aboard, stop. And so we stop and we stop on the quiz train. What is the powerhouse of the cell? You just go, it's fun. So you're giving them quiz questions that they would have on a test or a quiz, but they're chugging along the classroom like a train, which is fun. And then they stop. It's engaging. It's better than just asking quiz questions, popcorn style around the classroom. And also pantomime is great for ESL and nonverbal students and any other students that struggle with communication. Cool. And this is just another slide that talks about drama and curricular areas. There's language art focus that you can use exercises from. There's math focus, there's science focus and social studies focus. So all of these are just good shortcuts that I've given for you to use for specific subjects. So if you're more of a math teacher, you can go look at those really fun math exercises. If you're more science or social studies focused, you can go there and so on and so forth. So those are just more examples for you. And then basically where we're going to leave today is on storytelling. And that's on page 375 of the textbook. But storytelling is so valuable because it's rich brain food that provides a balanced diet of cognitive, social, and emotional knowing. I love the way the book says that. But storytelling is how we function throughout society and history. We have a rich history in storytelling. It's how we've passed stories on from generation to generation before we started writing things down into history and recording things and moving into technology and easier ways of logging our history. But you are also a storyteller. Teachers are storytellers. We create meaning through our subjects and exploring curriculum. It's a journey that you take each year, each semester, each week, and each day. So the last two questions that I'm going to leave you on are, what does your journey look like as an educator? I know it's a loaded question, but what does it look like short term and long term? So what does your journey look like as an educator in the beginning? What's your journey looking like now? How does your journey potentially look like when you are 5 years into teaching? What do you want your journey to look like as an educator? And how are you going to make sure that you're growing with your students? Remember, I said that we change based on changes that happen in society and in curriculum. If you are the same educator on day one as you are on the last day of teaching, maybe you haven't done your job as an educator. You should change based on the needs of your students. But also think about, how are you a storyteller? So how can you transmit that knowledge to those students in a creative and fun way so that they remember it, they build relationships with you, and they remember your class fondly? So how can you incorporate storytelling and creativity into your classroom in your own unique style? None of you are the same educator that I am. I'm not the same educator that you are. I was just talking to my husband the other day about this. Him and I are very different people. I love him to death, but he's a more introverted person, and he's more laid back as a teacher. He loves teaching high school, and high schoolers are a little bit more blasé. They think everything's, uncool and dumb. And so he's very chill. He just connects to him on a very realistic level. And I like to think I'm a chill person, but I'm also more talkative, obviously, as you guys have gathered, and I have a little bit more energy. So I connect more with younger students a lot of times, but both teaching styles are effective, I think. You're never going to have 100% of your students that love you 100% of the time, and that's okay. but you are going to have students that connect with you and love you and are drawn to you based on your teaching style. And that's awesome. But you are all unique educators in your own way. And you're all storytellers and you're all artists and you're creative in your own way. You don't have to be a theater practitioner to do that. But I want you guys to know that you are going to be great educators. You are worthy educators, and start cultivating your classroom now. Cultivate your teaching style now if you haven't already started doing that. So think about, what does your journey look like, and how are you a storyteller in your classroom? And how does that journey look, not just each year, but each semester, each week, and each day? It's going to be different. It's going to grow. It's going to evolve. It's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be hard at different times. But if you're in it for the right reasons, it's a beautiful journey that's worth it in the end. I'm so glad to have this time to talk to you guys. I will see you next week. If you have any questions, I am always an email away. I hope you've gotten some rich encouragement from this video. And if you need me again, just email me, and have a great week.